everybody, welcome back to Country Time. My name's Kathy Jarvis, and actually this is the second time I've done this video. The first time I did it out in the greenhouse, and I lost the footage between here and when I got ready to edit. I don't know what happened to it. And it's now dark, and it's cold, and it's wet. So I decided to do this inside. What I'm talking about today is 40 different tasks or jobs that I usually have to do each fall. And I have a checklist right here of all 40 things, and I get to check them off as I get doing them. And the first thing on my list is to preserve all the harvest before frost. That means if you watch your weather and you know you're going to have a frost, go out and harvest everything that you know will be gone the next morning. That'd be all your tender plants. And then preserve them for the winter. Second, save the seeds. Same thing, right before the frost, go out there and get all the seeds that you can and save them. Bring your house plants inside. If you are the type of person that takes the plants out in the summer so they can enjoy a summer vacation, bring them in before the frost. And what I usually do is bring them into a enclosed area such as a back porch or garage that has heat, and leave them sit there for a few days. That way I can make sure there's no bugs on them, and also helps acclimate them back into the house. And if you have annuals that have already died, you need to take and put the soil into the compost bin and wash out those pots, dry them, and put them away into a shed for the winter. You don't want to leave them outside, especially if they're terracotta ones, because they will expand as the water gets in and freeze. Rake and shred your leaves. Either put them in the compost bin or you put them over the garden beds to act as a mulch. And put some in the compost bin. I do a little bit of everything. I have some in the compost bin. I have some in a bin all themselves to use this next summer as shredded mulch. And I have another bin that I allow to actually turn into leaf mode to use into the garden. It's time to clean up the dead plants. Anything that dies during that frost, you need to clean up and throw those into the compost bin. It's time to plant the garlic. Usually garlic is planted in the last of October, 1st of November. Amend the soil before you put your beds to bed for the winter. This can either be with compost, dried leaves, grass clippings, anything that can be tilled or turned into the soil. You might consider getting a soil test if you haven't done it before. After you've put the compost and stuff on, then you need to mulch the beds on top, and you can do that with either straw, grass clippings, more shredded leaves, or landscape fabric. I like the landscape fabric because that keeps the cats and things out of your beds, where the other ones are just toppings and the cats can't dig through that. You want to cover your beds with something, because nature has a tendency to not like bare soil. So if you see bare soil, it's going to try to grow something, and that something is usually a weed. It's also time to turn your compost beds. I usually turn the beds and then use the bottom compost that's ready, and then I start a new compost bed where I just finished emptying the good compost. Make sure you drain your hose and put them away, and that goes for your hose, your drip lines, your sprinklers, your watering cans, your spraying cans that you use to mist things. All these needs to be emptied, and if you need to use them throughout the winter, fill them up, use them, and then drain them again. Just don't leave them set in the outside with the water and stuff, because that will freeze and bust them. If you have perennials and you want to divide them, now's the time to do that. It's also the time to sow the seeds of those perennials, because a lot of these seeds, perennial seeds especially, like to have a cold period where they before they germinate in the spring. So if you plant them now, it's cold through the winter, and then come spring when the soil warms up, they will germinate. It's also time to go to your stores and see if they have any perennials on clearance, because they're wanting to get all their plant stuff out the door so they can bring in the Christmas stuff. So it's a good time to buy perennials, and now's a good time to set those into the ground before the heavy winter comes. You need to dig up the bulbs of your gladolias and anything that's tender. You need to get those dug up and put into storage, and then you plant them again next spring. For the bulbs that bloom in the spring, such as your tulips and your daffodils, now's the time to get those bulbs and put them into the ground. Also, it's a good time to plant trees and shrubs. And if you plant a perennial, make sure you mark it so you know next spring that there's going to be a flower there, so you don't mow over it or dig it up and put something else in there. You also need to remove all the fallen fruit from around the fruit trees and get the fruit that's up in the trees. Get all that out too. And the reason is insects and diseases like to live in those rotting fruit. So you need to get those out of the way, and don't even put them in the compost pile. Just either bury them or get them off your property. And you need to prune your diseased and broken limbs off your trees. You wait until winter to do the pruning, to do the structural pruning to make the tree the shape you want. So right now what you need to do is just remove the dead and diseased limbs. And it's also a good time to create a kind of a wood pile, brush pile for wild animals. And you can do that. Find a far corner in your property away from your animal, away from your pets and your kids, and somewhere you won't see it. And just make a little brush pile for your little chipmunks and squirrels. They love it. It's time to spread manure onto your beds and around your perennials and cover them with mulch. If you have a yard, it's time to fertilize it and put extra grass seeds on top of it, because most of our grass seeds are actually cold weather plants, and they prefer to grow better and germinate when it's cooler outside. Also, as you get through with putting your beds to bed, it's time to sharpen those tools. Clean them up really good, sharpen them up. Check your handles, make sure they're not splintery. If they are, sand them down. Either give them a coat of paint or varnish, and take the metal parts of your tools and make sure they're sharp and clean. And while you're doing that, you can look and see what tools need to be replaced. And it's a good time to make a Christmas list. If someone asks you what you want for Christmas and you have a tool that's broken, tell them that you need a new hoe. Tell them you need a new gloves with those little clawy fingers on them. You know, anything that you think garden-wise that you could use next year, put it on your shopping list. It's also a good time to order your seed catalogs. And I would say order as many seed catalogs as you can, because each catalog has a little bit different information on them. Plus you can compare the prices of the seeds so you get the best deal. And while you're doing that, also remember it's also time to start buying seeds and trees and shrubs. So you also need to document what you're doing as far as in the garden. Now, I'm really good about that in the summertime, in the springtime. I'm really good about writing down every seed I plant, where I planted it, and what variety it is. But then on my fall garden, I don't do that as well. So I really need to work on that myself. And it's also a good time to just kind of set in your garden and look and think, how do I want to design it next year? Do I want to change something? And now it's time to make those changes, to add any structural things or any landscaping, hardscaping, anything like that. Winter is a good time to do that. And if you want to make a new structure, it's a good time to get material and put it in your garage or somewhere in your basement and work on that structure. Like if you want a new trellis, work on it during the winter when it's too cold to do anything outside. And you also need to make sure, look at your pantry and check and see, maybe your peas didn't do well this year and you don't have as many peas as you would like to in the freezer. So it'd be a good time to look at your different different foods that you've preserved and see if you are missing anything that you really would like to stock up on. Also check your seed inventory, make sure that you know what seeds you're actually going to need to order. Because if you have 3 or 4 packages of the same peas or the same carrots, you don't need to be ordering any more of that particular variety. You might want to try a new variety. If you have chickens, you need to winterize the chicken coops by putting the windbreakers up and the plastic up and making sure they have heated water dishes so the water stays unfrozen for them. Stock up on your animal feed. Try to have at least 1 extra bag at all times. Same thing with firewood. Make sure you have extra firewood. Now, we don't heat with firewood, but I have a fireplace. So if the electric would go out for one afternoon, I have a little bit of firewood that I can use to stay warm. So you don't have to go overboard on it, just have enough to keep you warm if you need to be. Also, you might consider having your furnace checked and your chimney flue checked to make sure they're working well. Because you don't want to wake up in the middle of the night on a cold night and realize that your furnace isn't going to be working. Check your weather stripping around your doors and your windows. Repair any garden structure that needs to be repaired. Prune back and wash your blackberries and raspberries. Provide shelter for the outside animals. If you have cattle or chickens and cats, barn cats, make sure they have a place to go that's nice and warm. And bring in your patio furniture or cover it. And last of all, clean out your bird feeders and fill the wild bird feeders so the little wild birds have food also. So I hope you've learned something. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Leave in the comments below any jobs that you have to do. Maybe I should be doing them and don't really remember them. And I hate to think I didn't remember them until it's too cold and have to run out there and do it in the freezing, which I've done before. I forgot to clean the filter on the little pond one year, and I had to do it. I had to break the ice to get it clean. So I didn't put that on the list. So if you have any comments below, that'd be appreciative. Remember to share it with your friends. This channel is just now growing, starting to grow, so I can use all the help I can get. So share it with all your friends. Subscribe to the channel if you would. Hit the bell icon, and I will see you later. And remember, dream big and follow that dream. Bye.